Coming up, it's People Fixing the World with me, Nick Holland. A couple of solutions this week. The first begins with a man on a moped chasing a swarm of flying locusts.
They can travel up to 150 kilometers. But when you're in rural Kenya with wild animals with very few roads, it's an admirable task.
They're trying to find out where the locusts sleep for the night, because that's when the insects are easier to catch.
The locals have now entered the bush and picking the locusts from shrubs.
We'll hear what happens to the ones they harvest. Plus, the millions of tons of microplastic particles that come off car tyres as they wear down.
If they're once in the environment, there will stay there. We can never recapture them.
But some students may have a solution to catch them. It works a bit like a balloon when it's rubbed against a jumper and hair sticks to it. That's all coming up after the BBC News.
Hello, I'm Justine Green with the BBC News. The Department of Defence in the United States plans to make vaccination against COVID-19 mandatory for all military personnel. The Defence Secretary Lloyd Austin said the Pentagon was seeking presidential authorization to implement the proposal no later than mid-September or earlier if the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine is given approval by the country's drug agency before then. The man leading America's anti-COVID effort, Dr. Anthony Fauci, said he thought it was the right thing to do.
When you're dealing with a pandemic that has already killed over 615,000 Americans and over 4 million people worldwide, that is a situation that is unusual. And when you have an unusual situation, sometimes you have to resort to things that are unusual.
The World Health Organization has confirmed the death of a man in Guinea from Marburg virus, a hemorrhagic fever which is often fatal. It's the first time the virus has been identified in West Africa. Vivian Nunes has this report.
Marburg virus disease is transmitted to people from fruit bats and spreads among humans through the transmission of bodily fluids. It's a severe, often fatal illness that causes fever and bleeding disorders. Samples taken from the patient in Guinea who has since died were tested in the country's laboratories and returned a positive result for the Marburg virus. Dr. Matshidiso Moeti from the World Health Organization said the virus had the potential to spread far and wide. Efforts are now underway to find people who may have been in contact with the man.
A lawsuit has been issued in New York suing Prince Andrew, a member of the British royal family, accusing him of historical sexual abuse. Nada Tawfik in New York has more details.
Virginia Roberts Giuffre's lawyers say that they had been in touch through letters to Prince Andrew's team, but that they had been completely ignored, and so decided to go forward with filing this civil lawsuit, which alleges that Virginia Roberts Giuffre, when she was just 17, was sexually trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein and sexually abused by Prince Andrew in London, New York, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, Prince Andrew has emphatically denied all of the allegations against him.
A fund set up by the estate of Jeffrey Epstein, who before his death was convicted of sex offences, says it's paid compensation to 150 victims of his abuse. Its administrator said the package was worth $121 million and that more than double the number of claims initially expected were received. The financier took his own life in a New York jail 2 years ago. The claims process is finished, but the administrator says unsuccessful claimants could still seek redress. World News from the BBC. US officials say they'll review the disclosure of classified documents relating to the September the 11th attacks at the behest of the victims' families. On Sunday, relatives of those killed in the plane attack on the World Trade Center 20 years ago called on President Biden to stay away from memorial events next month unless he agreed to declassify sensitive files relating to the event. Some are demanding the release of documents they believe implicate officials from Saudi Arabia in the plot. The authorities in Qatar have referred 7 people to the public prosecutor on allegations of spreading false news and inciting racial and tribal strife. The move comes after some members of the powerful Al Mara tribe complained they'd effectively been barred from voting in Qatar's first legislative election in October, as their semi-nomadic status in the past means they don't qualify as being of Qatari descent. A Brazilian indigenous organisation has called on the International Criminal Court to investigate President Jair Bolsonaro for alleged genocide and ecocide. Nicolas Rocha has the details.
The Association of Indigenous People of Brazil accuses the Brazilian president of leading what they call an explicit, systematic and intentional anti-indigenous offensive since his election 2 years ago. The association says Mr. Bolsonaro's policies promoted the destruction of their lands, in particular through intensified deforestation of the Amazon rainforest, and exacerbated the impact of coronavirus on indigenous communities. The ICC chief prosecutor now has to decide whether to pursue the case.
Wildfires in Algeria have left 4 people dead and 3 others injured in Kabylia, a mountainous region east of the capital Algiers. Videos posted on social media showed panicked residents fleeing on foot as flames threatened their homes. BBC News.